Hey guys, what's up? It's ItsSMOGONdevo here. So we're back, and I have awesome news. I just came back from winning my tournament. Undefeated, I lost no battles, none of my rounds. I'm really happy with how it actually turned out, and I'm really happy with the team I picked. So I just wanted to make a video just recapping my actual tournament. So I have all the battles and all that ready to go. I'll get into that later, but before I actually touch the battles and show you my tournament, I just kind of wanted to make like a team overview portion to the video. You know, explain why I picked what I picked, go over some of the threes, and just make a small little discussion for it. So let's get into the team overview, and then we'll look at my actual battles, where I'm going to just kind of break down the opponent's team, and then just do some voiceovers over the actual battles and give you my perspective and show you what I was actually thinking throughout the match. Alright, well, you'll see the team on my phone screen right over there with a little preview for my Rainbow Cup content, but don't worry about that for now. So looking at the team, we got a Alolan Raichu, the Xatu, Spiritomb, Shiftry, Raticate, and a Toxicroak. So I went with the 3D lineup. Why did I go with 3D lineup? Well, it really stood out to me when I was first looking at it way back at the start of the month, because it's somewhat deceiving. You know, you'd expect with your you'd expect with 3 darks that you would have a major fighting weakness. But that fighting weakness actually really isn't as big as you think. Alright, so 3D teams usually run Tomb and 2 Darks, Toxicroak, and 2 Psychics. The 2 Darks and the 2 Psychics can vary a bit, but Tomb and Croak are basically why this team works so well. And I'll get into them in a little bit, but they are pretty much a staple on this type of team. So the 2 Psychics, like I was saying, do have some variation. I went with Raichu and Xatu. I knew I really liked Raichu from my practice matches, so I had to pick it. And the Psychic that best paired well with it for me was Xatu. Reason being is Raichu is kind of afraid of Shiftry and Claydol. It can handle other Psychics just fine, but those are the 2 main threats. So Xatu pairs up really well for it. Also, Xatu's probably the best Psychic in the cup, so paired those 2 together. The 2 Darks, there is some variation. Really, you're looking at Shiftry and Drapion on top of Tomb, or you're looking at Raticate and Muck. So I'll get into that now, I guess. So you're really looking for synergy with your 2 Darks outside of that Spiritomb. Shift and Drape happen to pair well because Shiftry is going to pretty much beat everything but the Dark Poisons, and Drapion will improve your matchup versus the Dark Poisons. The Dark Poisons usually go pretty equal with each other, but Drapion's the more consistent out of the bunch because it's just spamming Aqua Tail there. You don't really have to bait anything, whereas they would be baiting, Skunktank would be baiting out the Flamethrower, Muck would be messing with your head with some Acid Spray, if it has Acid Spray. The other pair you can go with is Rat and Muck. So Raticate and Muck. Rat beats basically every Dark in this cup. The only thing that beats it is Muck and Shiftry, and potentially the Mirror. So when you're using Rat, you're looking for something basically to cover opposing Rat and Shiftry. So Muck does that the best. Like I said, Muck is one of the only Darks that actually beats Rat, and it also has that benefit of beating Shift, the other Dark that does beat Rat. So Rat and Muck are an excellent pair together. But I did manage to figure something out with a friend of mine. Somewhere near the start to the middle of our cup, there is a way actually to flip that matchup with the Raticate and Muck, which basically turns one of Rat's weaknesses into a strength. So I'm going to just switch over right now and cover that So let's go over there. And by over there, I mean literally right here to the Sims. So basically, I'm going to check out this Raticate and Alolan Muck matchup. So I'll show you both sets. Basically, we'll check out Poison Jab, Sludge Wave, and Dark Pulse. Just run the sim really quick. So Muck does win. I know it's Dark Pulsing and Sludge Waving after, but you don't actually have to bait as Muck. You can just, hey, let's get rid of Dark Pulse. Right? You can just Sludge Wave twice, and you beat rats, even if they bait you. So, provided they don't, or assuming you block Hyper Fang, you just do even better. The other set you can run with Muck, of course, is Acid Spray. So run that one. It's really the same result. You just double Acid Spray and you take this win. You could even Acid Spray and then go into Dark Pulse. They're the same energy, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so Muck is actually one of those few dark types that can beat Rat. Or so it seems. Let's take a closer look at the sim right here. So if we look at Raticate and check out its quick move, quick attack, you can see that it does 4 damage every time you use it against Muck. Well, there is actually a breakpoint which will increase quick attack's damage from 4 to 5 versus Muck. And look how close this is. It's surviving with about 9 HP. So I'm going to show you the Raticate I'm using. Oh yeah, just had a Lapras Day. I'm recording this part of the video a little bit later. But anyways. Alright, so let's put in my rat stats. 15 attack. Ooh, not 16. 15, 9, and 7. I think it's level 34, yeah. So let's look at this. Remember that quick attack's doing 4 damage here to this Muck. Hit battle right over here. All of a sudden I'm coming out with the win. Why is that? Well, quick attack bumped up to 5 damage. So every quick attack I do is doing 1 extra damage, and I'm getting a lot of them off, you can see here. And it was just a very small 9 HP difference, so that 1 extra damage from quick attack really adds up, and it actually flips this matchup in your favor. Sims are Dark Pulse again, so let's remove that. Yeah, so even if you Acid Spray twice again, Rat still comes out on top with this breakpoint. So effectively, Rat now beats every dark type except Shiftry, and it will have some issues with the mirror, of course. That just depends on the energy leads. Of course, you have to be mindful though. This Muck on the default sim is 108 defense. If your Muck has over 110 defense, the 113 attack, which is my Rat, that's the value you want to go for. 113 attack versus 110 or less defense Muck. Rat will actually get this quick attack breakpoint to go from 4 damage to 5 damage per quick attack, and that flips this match around. But I said it's 110 and under, so watch what happens if you're facing a Muck. That's ideal. So 113. I'll lower it just so you can see that it's the 110. Alright. So versus 110, I'm able to get 5 still. But as soon as it crosses over to anything above 110, I go back to the 4 damage. And then I'm losing the matchup all of a sudden. Oh, by the way, I know it was showing as a bait, but you can just Hyper Fang twice as the Rat and still win. You don't have to go for a bait anymore. But yeah, so anything, a Muck that's ideal, or just having 110.5 or 111 and higher, say 111 to be safe, 111 defense and higher, actually can beat the Rat again. It goes back to the same matchup we saw earlier. The reason why I was willing to bank on this though is because the only way to get an Alolan Muck right now is to have a friend trade you one, because hatching out of an egg, it evolves too high. So the only way to get it is trading. The issue with that though is with Ultra Friends, you know, you have the 3-3-3 floor, and the best friends have 5-5-5. So it's very difficult to get a muck that's ideal. You basically have to trade somebody that you just met to have your best shot at it. It's definitely possible, don't get me wrong, but I feel like most people who are using a muck probably just swapped one with their friends really quick. And I was willing to bank on the fact that my 113 attack is going to catch a lot of mucks with 110 or less defense. So that's why my team is actually a little different. You'll notice I wasn't running the rat and muck pair together. Right? I'm using rat and shiftry. That's because I'm not worried about muck. I know my rat is going to beat most mucks, and I'm banking on it beating every muck I come across in tournaments. Not a lot of people knew about the specifics of the breakpoint at that point. We weren't really talking about it much. We were kind of keeping it hush-hush. Closer to the end of the month, we started talking about it a bit more, sharing it with the Discord, but yeah, so we were banking on this, on not seeing ideal mucks pretty much. But because of that, it really opens up that other slot we felt, or I felt. I was looking for something to beat rat. And shiftry immediately popped in my head, being the only other dark that does it. And now that muck wasn't an issue for me, because my rat can beat other mucks, shiftry felt perfect. The other thing, I am running Raichu and Toxicroak. So Claydol teams have a bigger opening versus my squad, especially with muck. So shiftry helped that a lot actually, and I was using it for deterrence against opposing Claydol, but also for Raticate. I do have a couple of threes that I actually use shiftry on. Usually I use it against a mirror match for 3D in my practices, and it has a lot of success there, or if I encounter Claydol or even a Poliwrath. Raichu, it's nice for that too, but the main purpose was deterrence, I guess. And I actually did like using it. But putting that aside, so now we got my team: Raichu, Xatu, Shiftry, Raticate, Toxicroak, and Spiritomb. And if you remember me saying earlier, Spiritomb and Toxicroak are the reason why you don't have a huge fighter weakness. So you know with Toxicroak, it's a great Pokemon in this cup. It performs as a fighting type, you know, beating the darks, all that good stuff. But it also is able to beat all the other fighters. That's why it's so good in this cup. So it's a fighter that provides you fighter coverage. The cool thing with Spiritomb is that it's a unique dark type. So I'm going to bring you to the sim just to show it to you. So let's check out Sim and Toxicroak. Spiritomb is very unique in terms of darks. All the darks are out here losing to fighters. Spiritomb doesn't lose. So I'll show you this Sucker Punch variant. You'll see it actually manages to come out with a win versus Toxicroak, which is amazing. Sucker Punch though, it wins by landing a Shadow Ball and baiting an Ominous Wind. So what I was running, if you look at my phone screen, I was running the Feint Attack, because it just makes it a little bit more consistent, where you just Ominous Wind twice, 1, 2, and you still come out with the win right there. It doesn't matter which Mud Bomb you shield either. Here, I'll shield the second one and take the first one. Yeah, there's no extra energy for him. Still the same result. Oh, give me the boost. Don't know why it gave me the boost there. But yeah, so it's the same result. So I was using the Feint Attack Spiritomb because it had very consistent results at beating other fighting types. So when you step back and look at the team now, "3D Tomb teams aren't actually weak to fighting types. Looking at Shiftry and Raticate, or your 2 dark slots, whatever they may be, those 2 are genuinely weak to fighters. But looking outside of that, you have Raichu, you have Xatu, you have Spiritomb, and you have Toxicroak. So in theory, your team that should have 3 weaknesses, and at best 2 answers to fighting types, only has 2 weaknesses and it has 4 answers for fighting types. So 3D is actually an incredibly balanced composition. I think for Nightmare it's probably the most balanced, and it really gives you a lot of room to do mix-ups, to really mess around with your lineups, is what I meant to say. Like, you can totally run 2 darks, you can run like 2 psychics and a dark, you can run so many different combinations.
Well, there you go, that would be the team. I know I said I was going to go over some of the 3s at the start of the video, but I don't really want to waste any more time. Instead, I think we should just jump into the videos. There you'll actually be able to see for yourself exactly some of the 3s I run. So without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and finally get into these battles, and you can witness me take my Nightmare Cup. So we're going up against Mr. AJ first. Looking at his team, he has the Honchkrow, Chimecho, Spiritomb, Toxicroak, Mr. Mime, and the Xatu. Right away I noticed that he has a really big weakness to Rat. Rat's actually able to take out 5 out of 6 members of his team. Right after that I also see a Spiritomb hole as well, which beats 4 out of 6, and the Mirror as well. And I'm noticing that Raichu can put in a good amount of work too, especially looking at that Honchkrow and Xatu. What I do notice that is not effective actually is my own Croak. Seems like Croak has a lot of room to do horribly here. And Shiftry might be able to take on half of his team, but then it also loses to the other half. So I see much stronger matchups in Rat and Spiritomb, and Raichu as well. So keeping that in my head, I'm thinking that I kind of want to lead Spiritomb, just because it does beat 4 out of 6. Rat has really strong leads as well, but I was kind of nervous about leading that into his Croak, so I figured I would save Rat more so in the back. So keeping in mind the Spiritomb lead, I'm trying to think what would be less ideal for Tomb to lead into, and I basically come up with Toxicroak and Honchkrow. More so Honchkrow, and I wouldn't exactly mind leading into Croak because then it just frees up Rat a bit more. But I was hoping to have like a sort of safe switch just in case I did get the Honchkrow or potentially a Croak. And I didn't want to burn Rat there either, so Raichu seemed even better here. So basically I'm thinking that I will start it off by leading Tomb with Rat and Rai in the back. So let's get into the first battle. I do end up leading with the Tomb and Rat and Rai in the back. Unfortunately for me, he does actually lead into the Honchkrow. I know I had the Raichu planned for a safe switch, but I decide to stay in just so I can maintain switch advantage. And I go for an Ominous Wind, hoping to bait a shield. I don't get it, but I actually managed to grab the boost. Game 1 on my first charge move. Wasn't expecting that at all, so because of that, I do decide to shield Spiritomb. I was actually going to just let it go down, but get the boost, so stay in, burn a shield, and now I have an Ominous Wind ready to go. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to burn a shield on whatever comes in here. So I go for my own Ominous Wind. He brings in his Spiritomb Mirror. Doesn't decide to shield it. So now I just try to beat down his Spiritomb with my fast moves. I'm worried about his own Ominous Wind coming off, so I do let mine go off. He decides to shield it, but I still take out his Spiritomb. And now I get a little bit of chip on this Chimecho coming in. So Chimecho versus Raticate, I don't think there's a whole lot Chime can do. So for me, I'm just trying to get off my crunches. So So I got off the first crunch. He does block it, and I'm just going to block this charge move because I can afford to. It's a Shadow Ball, so it really wouldn't have done anything crazy. And I know I can get to the second crunch before he gets the Shadow Ball. So I do get to the crunch, and I go for it, and he has no shields up, so nothing's stopping this. So with that, we'll take the first round, or the first match. And I'm thinking I'm just going to go back into the same 3. I'm a little bit nervous of the Croak matchup, but I decided that I wanted to stick with it. He actually leads the exact same team, and he had told me this right before we went in, so I asked him if he wanted to redo the match or pick a different team, and he actually said no. But that works out for me pretty well, because I bring the exact same team as well. My Spiritomb goes for Ominous Wind, and he does decide to shield it this time. I know he has the same 3, so I'm just trying to burn shield now on his Honchkrow. Go for my second Ominous Wind. Hoping to get another shield, and I do get it. So now I'm thinking Spiritomb's done more than enough. I'm going to let it go down to the Sky Attack. And I'll bring in Raichu and farm up some energy. Unfortunately, I get the Switch Tray glitch, so I'm not able to do anything right now. I try to get it away, but it doesn't work at first. And after it does work, I know he has Chimecho and Spiritomb in the back, and since the Spiritomb's coming in right now, I decide to just farm it with my Raticate. It's a bit of energy on Raichu should anything happen, but here I'm just going to farm as much energy as possible. Yeah, now I'll go for my first crunch. Don't quite get the damage on Spiritomb, so I decide to just farm up a little bit more so that I can have 2 crunches ready to go for Chimecho. Launch the first one out. He has no shields, he's not going to stop this. And then I'll launch the second one out as well. So we'll take the first game. Luckily for me, didn't have to change my comp too much, and he didn't actually bring that Croak. But my Spiritomb and Rat had a lot of positives. Alright, so with the next battle, we're going to go up against Veros Fash 1. He's using a Shift, Tomb, Blaze, Merc, Cario, and a Xatu. I actually ran into him outside the tournament before we went in. This was his first cup, so he really just tried to make do with what he could. So he basically built a 2-2-2 lineup, or as close as he could get to it, given his resources. So if I'm looking at his team, the first thing I kind of saw was that my Xatu actually beats 3 or 4 if you count the mirror. My Raichu is really good, beating 4. Tomb's similar to Xatu, hitting 3 plus the mirror. But my Croak actually really stood out to me here, beating pretty much everything but the Xatu, or at least getting pretty close with them all. I wasn't too sure about the Murkrow. It really just depended on the set. I didn't know if he was Feint Attack or Peck, but it was still I was still willing to give that to Croak. Because of Croak's overwhelming positives, I figured that I wanted to lead with it. I didn't really want to bring Shift this game because it seemed risky with the 2 flyers and the 2 fighters. And Rat was also pretty risky just because of those 2 fighters as well, and the Shift tree. So I'm thinking at this point I want to lead my Croak. And I also like Rise positives. So right before the match I was still kind of thinking about what I wanted in that last slot. I knew I wanted the Croak lead and Chew. I wasn't sure if I wanted Xatu. I was kind of just debating between it and I suppose Spiritomb. When I was looking at them, they were both kind of covering the fighters, so I decided Xatu would have been the better option. But getting into it, I lead Croak into his Murkrow, and I quickly find out that it is Peck, looking at that damage, so I do make a quick switch, hoping to catch a charge move or something. Don't get the charge move, but he actually switches in Xatu versus my Raichu. So I'm going to immediately go for this Thunder Punch. Now I'm just trying to burn as many shields as possible, really. So I'll go for another Thunder Punch. And I do get both shields. I don't want Chew to go down quite yet. I'm going to try to feint the Zasu with my Chew. And I get to my third Thunder Punch before his second Ominous Wind. And we'll go ahead and knock out Zatu. He switches in his Murkrow. I'm thinking it might have been a Dark Fast move, so I block it. It wasn't, but we can knock it out with Fast moves now. I'm going to build Raichu's energy to Wild Charge and just slam whatever comes in. So I catch his Luke with the Wild Charge, and that will take it out. That pretty much wraps up the first game. So I'm going to jump into the second round now. I really did like that lineup, and Croak and Chew still really stood out to me. So I decided just to actually go in with the same lineup. And decided not really to change it up. I felt comfortable with it at this point. So in Battle 2, using the same thing. This time instead of the Murkrow, we catch a Shiftry, which is a great matchup for Croak. So I'm just going to stay in and get as much energy as I can. He makes a switch into his Blaziken. I was going to switch, but I decided to keep it in after seeing Blaze. Now my plan is to burn as many shields as I can get. So I take the first. He gets to Blaze Kick before Mud Bomb actually. So I'm going to shield this and launch another Mud Bomb, hoping to get his last shield. He doesn't give me the shield, but he gives me his Blaze. Now I'm just waiting to see what he brings in. Yeah, he actually brings in Spiritomb, so I'm trying to get another Mud Bomb and bluff a shield. And I do get the shield, so I'm going to try to build to another Mud Bomb. Just short, and now I'm thinking what I want to bring in. I decide the Raichu because I wanted to keep Zatu alive just to kill his Shiftry. So my Raichu is just going to beat down the Spiritomb with a Thunder Punch. And now his Shiftry will come in and work on the Raichu. No shields left, so I'm going to take this. But I saved Zatu exactly for this scenario, so now Zatu's single Air Slash will actually knock out the Shiftry. So we'll take the second game right there. And we're off to a good start. So now we're up against New Archaic. This was probably the match I was most nervous about. It's funny because we almost always go up against each other in the third round of the tournament. For some reason we just end up getting matched that way. But I'm really nervous about this matchup. It took me a really long time to figure out what I wanted to bring, and even then I don't think I actually settled on it. So let's just check out his team. He's running a typical triple psychic with Raichu, Hypno, Zatu, Drapion, Rat, and Croak. This is the type of team that has a huge Rat weakness. When you're running a triple psychic with Rat and Drape, you have a really big Rat weakness. I've seen teams similar to this a lot top other tournaments, so I know some players are able to play around it. But I'm willing to bet that I can take advantage of this Rat weakness. So I know for sure that I want to bring my own Rat, but I'm really nervous about leading it, because if I lead into the mirror, that's going to suck for me if I lose my Rat, and if I lead into the Croak lead, which is very possible, then I'm losing Rat and I lose that advantage that I'm trying to build. This is the guy that actually made the anti-Rat and Croak teams for. The Croak lead teams for. So I'm really not willing to lead my Rat here. So beside that Rat weakness, I'm kind of looking now at my anti-Croak Rat leads, the two teams I have for that. And basically how they work is they either lead Toxicroak or Chew. So I'm thinking I like Chew more than Croak here. A lot more neutral matchups that I might win, because I'm scared of running into the Hypno or Zatu on the lead. So basically I worked it down to Chew and Rat, and this last slot I don't think I fully decided. I was just hoping to get lucky with that. On the one hand, I'm thinking I could bring Croak because I'm kind of weak to opposing Rat if anything happens to my Rat. So Croak would help with that. But then I'm also thinking if I have Rat that's double weak to fighting and Croak that's double weak to psychic, I could get caught easily. So I'm thinking maybe I go Xatu to help with the Rat's weakness and mitigate my psychic weakness. I was really stressed trying to build this team. But let's just get into the match, and we'll see from there. So I'm still not totally satisfied with the plan I worked out in my head. I really wanted to lead Spiritomb, but I was so nervous about that Rat lead. So I'm like dancing between the two options at this point. Do I want to run what I was initially thinking with my gut, or do I want to go for this Spiritomb lead? And I really wanted to, but that Rat was really scaring me. So I decide just to go for my initial gut feeling though. And I choose the Chew and Rat. I picked Croak this time around, hoping to have an answer for his own Rat. But there was an issue with the game, so I had to restart. Actually, all of us at the tournament were having an issue at that point. So I restart, and now I actually have a chance to second guess myself, which I'm really thankful for now, because I decide that I don't exactly like Croak, because I'm worried about fighters, or his Croak more specifically, and I swap it out for Xatu at the last minute. So I'm going to bring in the Raichu, Rat, and Xatu team instead of with Croak. So I lead Chew into his Croak, actually. And this is a matchup I've done 1,000 times. Normally what I do is I will go for the Thunder Punch bait. So that's exactly what I do. And he does fall for the bait. So now I will block this Mud Bomb. And then I'm just going to try and build to Wild Charge. Normally I would launch it away, but I know he likes to switch and try to save his Mon, so I kind of wait a second, ready to make my own switch. Realizing it's a Rat, I just want to try to burn a shield, really. I don't get the shield, but I do a massive chunk to Raichu, and I'm also able to get off a Thunder Punch at the last minute. He doesn't shield it and actually gives up his Rat. My Raichu's really low at this point though. So it's going to go down to the Xatu fast move. I bring in Rat and I'm expecting him to switch into his Croak at any minute. I'm not going to shield the first move because I know Rat can take anything and I don't want to put it in a position to be farmed by Croak later. So I go for Crunch now, hoping to at least burn a shield. Don't get the shield, but I get Xatu, so that's not a bad outcome either. Croak will take out my Rat, but now I have Xatu. I'll shield the first move just in case it's a Sludge Bomb, and then I'm able to actually just beat down his Croak with fast moves because it's so low. And with that, we will take the first round. Oh, a stressful match for me. So I'll get another error. I was going to go in with the same team, swapping around the lead. But I had another chance to second guess myself, and this time I basically run the same team with a Rat lead, and I swap out the Raichu for Toxicroak, thinking that this time he'll try to capitalize on that big dark weakness I was feeling initially when I had looked at his team. So I lead Rat into his Rat. And I'm waiting just to see what he does. So I let him get the charge move first. I don't want to shield. He tries for a bait, so I'm going to do the exact same thing he does. See if I can mess with his head a bit. He doesn't fall for it though. I think I might have piggybacked him a bit on that last bit. So now I'm just going to go for a Hyper Fang before he gets it off. He does block it, and at this point I'm thinking I really don't want to lose any kind of advantage. I'll let my Rat go down to Hyper Fang. Fortunately for me, he continues to try to bait, And now I'm able to get off a second Hyper Fang right at the end there, which he also does block. So now I'm up 2 shields. I bring in Croak. He switches out his Rat really quick, but he has no shields, so this Sludge Bomb is going to absolutely destroy his Xatu. I'm almost at a Mud Bomb as well. He brings in his own Croak, but I can get the Mud Bomb off before him because I had the energy lead. Finish it off with one more counter, and now his Rat's going to come in and take a counter and go down to my Croak. My god, that was an incredibly stressful match. I let out the biggest sigh of relief after that. I cannot believe I actually won that one. So right now I'm feeling really good, undefeated at this point. Just gotta move into the last match. So jumping into the last battle, we're going up against Sproop. Looking at his team, he has a Raichu, Xatu, Muck, Toxicroak, Spiritomb, and Bronzong. This match was kind of nerve-wracking for me too, just because I knew it was the finals, and I really didn't want to lose. So I was still kind of nervous picking up, especially from that last game. But I started to break down his team. I just took my time and looked at my Mon versus his one at a time. Looking at my Raichu, I mean, doesn't have the greatest matchups here. Might pull something off versus Xatu and Bronzong. So I didn't really want to bring it here. Looking at my Xatu, it also doesn't have the most amazing matchups. But when I saw my Spiritomb, I realized that it beats pretty much everything but his Muck, or at least has a shot at. And the mirror could go either way. So I really liked Spiritomb right away. I looked at my shift tree and I didn't see a whole lot of potential from it. I mean, it does beat the Bronzong, his own Spiritomb, and Raichu. But I was really worried about the combination of Muck, Xatu, and Toxicroak. Then I moved on to my Rat. Rat has so many positives here. It beats everything but his Croak. Usually the Muck would be something that beats it, but as I was talking about at the start of the video, my Rat actually has the 113 attack, so it hits a breakpoint versus Muck so that it can actually beat Muck. So Rat beats almost everything but Croak on his team. So I know I want Spiritomb and I know I want Rat. I'm willing to lead Spiritomb over Rat because it seems less risky given his Croak. So I'm going to lead Spiritomb and I'm going to have Rat in the back. And then I'm trying to think like what I'm really worried about. And it seemed like my own Toxicroak coverage might have been suffering. So when I was looking at that, I was considering Xatu or Raichu. If I really want to deal with Croak though, Xatu is a much better option for that. So I kind of base my team around Tomb Rat and try to cover for them. So let's get into it. So I was pretty sure that I wanted to lead this. So I just go ahead and jump into the match with the Spiritomb lead. Just waiting for him to choose his team now. So we lead Tomb into his Raichu. So I'm going to just try and build up to my Ominous Wind. I shield the first move. I just didn't want to take any damage on my Spiritomb. Luckily it was a wild charge, and then I actually go for my own Ominous Wind. I do get a shield off of him. So my Spiritomb is then able to actually just beat down his Raichu with fast moves, and I have a huge energy lead. So I can go for the Shadow Ball actually. I'm really just trying to bait a shield, but I actually managed to land that Shadow Ball. So now I'm sitting at a huge advantage. He brings in his own Spiritomb. I'm trying to go for the Ominous Wind, but I build my energy a little bit too high. I didn't realize he was a Shadow Sneak Spiritomb, so that's why he was able to get it off before me. And now I bring in my Rat, and I can just farm away to Spiritomb. I think he actually kind of gives up around now. He did have the shield, but he chose not to shield it because he figured it was a losing matchup. Which it was, to be fair. So we'll go ahead and take that first game. And now I'm just trying to think what I want to bring on the rematch. You know, I realize he never actually saw my Xatu, so I'm still kind of like going between my lineups, but because he didn't see my Xatu, I think I actually wanted to just reuse the same lineup. If I had beat him already and he didn't see my last Mon, I felt really comfortable with it. So I just go back in with it, have Xatu in the back secretly. He actually doesn't make any changes either. So we're back in that same position right away. Except now I know if he does bring Spiritomb, it's a Shadow Sneak variant. But he switches out to Muck this time actually. Farm a little bit of energy and I bring out my Rat. Just in time. I was expecting the Dark Pulse, but he does go for Acid Spray. So I don't shield it either way, and now I'm -2 on my defense. I'm going to go for a Shield Bait here. And he does fall for it. I'm going to shield this move coming in. Thought it would be a Dark Pulse, but he goes for a second Acid Spray, which was smart. But now I'm going to go for Hyper Fang. I have to take out this Muck because I have Xatu and Spiritomb. And luckily for me, I do get the Muck. His Croak will come in and finish off my Rat. And now I'm going to attempt to farm him with Xatu, knowing I have that shield in the back. He switches out, but I have Ominous Wind, so I'm going to go straight forward against his Raichu. Burn his last shield. Now I make a quick switch just in time. I figured he was going to get a charge move off. I didn't want to shield it. Luckily for me, it was Thunder Punch. And now I use Ominous Wind and I take out his Raichu. And now his Croak. I'm trying to get a Shadow Ball, but I've learned my lesson now and I decide just to go for the Ominous Wind and get that guaranteed win. And with that, I actually take the final match and win my tournament. And there you have it. I take my Nightmare Cup undefeated, no losses. Feels pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I didn't really bring Shiftry at all, but honestly I don't regret bringing a single member of the team. I was really happy with what I picked, and yeah, I just generally don't regret it. So this pretty much wraps up all of my Nightmare content. I'm now in full throttle for the Rainbow Cup. I got a ton of content planned. Don't you worry. Just give me a few days to settle in and get myself ready for the Rainbow Cup. I have a few videos already in the works. Just working on editing them right now. But yes, just stay tuned. I'll have some Rainbow content up soon. Hopefully I'll be covering it for a much longer time than the Nightmare Cup. Yeah, I'll be covering it from the start of the month pretty much. So just stay tuned for that. Otherwise, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, please leave a comment, give me a like, and if you like what you're watching and what you've been seeing so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. Take care for now.